December 13, 1943, 25,000 feet above the North Sea, eastbound toward Germany. The cold reaches through the cockpit first. It slips past the seals, through the flight suit, into the bones. Frost feathers along the canopy glass as Lieutenant John Jack Mayers flexes his gloved fingers around the control stick. The engine hums steady, Packard-built Merlin V1650, smooth, confident, almost calm. Ahead of him, stretching to the horizon, are bombers. Hundreds of them. B-17 flying fortresses. They move in tight, geometric boxes, aluminum skins reflecting pale winter sun. Vapor trails lace the sky like scars. The formation is already deep into enemy airspace, far deeper than any escort has gone before. And that fact alone makes this moment different. Mayers glances down at his fuel gauges. External tanks still feeding. Drop tanks, unglamorous, bulbous, awkward-looking things bolted beneath sleek wings. The kind of addition that gets laughed at in enemy briefings. The kind that changes wars. Above and ahead, black flak bursts blossom, heavy and methodical, the first greeting from the WWII. Mayers doesn't flinch. He's been briefed. Everyone has. The Germans expect the escorts to turn back soon. They always do. Spitfires. Thunderbolts. Lightnings. They peel away at the edge of range, forced to abandon the bombers to whatever waits ahead. But today, no one turns back. At the same altitude, 50 miles inland, Oberleutnant Franz Keller watches contrails through the canopy of his Messerschmitt Bf 109G. The radio crackles with reports, large bomber stream, usual altitude, usual heading. Keller smirks faintly. Another meat grinder. He adjusts his oxygen mask and banks slightly, sunlight glinting off the long nose of his fighter. The WWII has faced this before. The Americans come in daylight now, arrogant, predictable, confident in their formations. And every time, they pay for it. But something is off. Keller scans the edges of the bomber stream, expecting the familiar absence of escorts. Instead, he sees them, fighters, close and tight, not drifting back toward the channel. Slim silhouettes. Long wings. Narrow fuselages. He frowns. Was es das? He mutters. The radio bursts alive. Confusion bleeds through clipped German professionalism. New Jagger, very thin, not Thunderbolts. Keller angles closer, curiosity overtaking habit. Through his gun sight, the shape resolves, laminar flow wings, low-drag design, radiator scoop under the belly. The aircraft looks fragile, almost delicate compared to the blunt, armored Thunderbolt. An American fighter that looks like it shouldn't survive a hard turn. Keller exhales, amused. So, he says quietly, this is the Mustang. The Luftwaffe intelligence briefings had dismissed it. Underpowered. Limited range. A reconnaissance plane at best. Certainly not a true escort. German pilots had nicknames already. Das Dunford. The Thin Horse. But Keller knows better than to trust paper assessments. He lines up on a bomber box, preparing for the climb and dive attack that has worked so many times before. Then the Mustangs move. They don't scatter. They don't wait. They climb, fast, cutting across his approach path with precise, almost aggressive intent. One flashes past his canopy, silver skin close enough to read the stenciling on the fuselage. USAAF. Keller jerks the stick, startled. The Mustang doesn't bleed speed. It doesn't wobble. It rolls cleanly and climbs again, engine note rising, smooth and controlled. Verdammt, he mutters. This is not what he expected. Back in his cockpit, Mayers spots the 109s before they dive. Dark shapes, sharp angles against the pale sky. He toggles the radio. Bandits, 2 o'clock high. Stay tight. Don't chase. His wingman acknowledges instantly. The Mustangs slide into position like a practice drill team. Years of doctrine have been overturned in weeks. No more bomber-only defense. No more passive escort. The new orders are clear. Seek, engage, destroy. Protect the bombers by killing the hunters. Mayers pushes the throttle forward. The Merlin answers with a deep, controlled roar. The aircraft feels alive, responsive, eager. The thin wings, mocked, underestimated, slice through the air with almost no resistance. He sees Keller's 109 commit to its dive. Mayers meets him head-on. The sky explodes into motion. Tracer rounds streak past, green and red lines tearing through thin air. Mayers squeezes the trigger. 6.50 caliber Brownings bark in unison, the Mustang shuddering as streams of fire converge ahead. Keller pulls hard, narrowly avoiding the burst, G-forces crushing him into his seat. This is wrong. Everything about this fight is wrong. The Mustang stays with him through the turn. It shouldn't. Keller yanks the stick again, trying to force an overshoot, but the American fighter holds its energy, climbing with him, refusing to fall away. The thin frame hides a lethal balance: speed, altitude, endurance. Keller breaks radio silence, voice tight. Dies Jagger, Sie bleiben bei den Bomben. They stay with the bombers. Below them, the B-17s continue on, steady, relentless, bombs still aboard, engines droning toward targets deep inside Germany. For the first time since daylight bombing began, the Luftwaffe cannot peel the escorts away. For the first time, the bombers are not alone. Meyers watches Keller disengage, diving away toward cloud cover. He doesn't chase. He doesn't need to. The mission isn't glory. It's distance. It's endurance. It's staying power. And as the bomber stream presses on toward Berlin, the thin-framed fighter the Germans mocked holds formation, mile after mile, hour after hour, rewriting the rules of the air war in real time. December 13, 1943, 27,500 feet over northern Germany, west of Bremen. The cloud deck breaks apart beneath the bomber stream, revealing a frozen quilt of farmland and dark rivers. Smoke from flak batteries curls upward in lazy spirals before snapping into violent black bursts at altitude. The sound reaches Meyers a split second late. Whomp, 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 felt more than heard through the Mustang's airframe. This is the line. The invisible boundary every escort pilot knows by heart. Beyond this point, escorts have always turned back. Meyers glances again at his fuel. The drop tanks are nearly dry now. He flips the switch, feels the slight shift as the feed changes. With a practiced motion, he punches the release. The tanks fall away, tumbling end over end, vanishing into the clouds below. The Mustang suddenly feels lighter, sharper. And still, there is fuel to burn. Ahead, the bomber formation does not slow. It does not tighten. The crews inside the fortresses can see the Mustangs now, sliding forward, weaving gently along the edges of the boxes. For the first time on a deep penetration mission, there is no moment of abandonment. No lonely stretch where the sky feels empty and hostile. A B-17 tail gunner tracks the fighters with disbelief. They are still here, he says into his intercom, voice barely steady. Oberleutnant Keller levels out below the bomber stream, heart hammering. He checks his ammunition, already lighter than it should be at this stage of the mission. Fuel is fine. The aircraft is intact. His confidence is not. Around him, other German fighters regroup. Focke-Wulf 190s, more 109s, climbing back into position. Normally, this is where they would circle, wait for the escorts to disappear, then tear into the bombers at will. But the escorts don't disappear. They move differently than the Thunderbolts. Not tied to the bombers in rigid orbits. They fan out ahead, above, below, aggressive screens that deny altitude and angles. They are not guarding the bombers like sheepdogs. They are hunting. Keller watches a Mustang dive through a climbing 190, forcing it to break away before it ever reaches firing position. Another American fighter slashes across the formation, forcing two 109s to jettison external tanks prematurely. This is a knife fight fought at altitude, and the Mustangs control the space. New tactic, Keller mutters. New tactics. He keys the radio again. They are not leaving. We must attack through them. There is a pause. Then acknowledgement. Reluctant. Grim. Meyers spots the regrouping Germans almost immediately. His canopy is a bubble, clear, unobstructed. He sees everything. That visibility, combined with the Mustang's speed, turns the sky into a three-dimensional map he can read instinctively. Multiple bandits forming up low, he calls. Let's break it before they climb. He pushes the nose down. The Mustang accelerates with terrifying smoothness, the airframe barely trembling as speed builds. The thin wings, engineered to reduce drag at high velocity, now show their true purpose. This is not a fragile aircraft. It is a scalpel. Meyers fires short bursts, disciplined. A 190 snaps into a defensive roll, trailing a thin ribbon of smoke. Another German fighter abandons the climb entirely, diving away toward the deck. Every aborted attack is a bomber saved. Above them, the fortresses continue. Bremen today. Berlin tomorrow. Inside a B-17 cockpit, the bombardier wipes frost from the sight glass. Flak rocks the aircraft, a hard punch to the left wing. The pilot curses, correcting course. Normally, this is where fighters would come, straight through the formation, guns blazing, killing or crippling one bomber after another. But the sky feels different. The flak is still deadly. The cold is still merciless. But the fighters, those screaming, sudden deaths, are fewer. Broken. Disorganized. A Mustang flashes past the nose, so close the bombardier can see the pilot's helmet turn, checking the formation. He gives a quick thumbs up. It feels unreal. Keller commits again, anger sharpening his focus. He climbs hard, ignoring the Mustang above him until it's too late. Traces tear past his wingtip. He rolls, dives, pulls every ounce of performance from his 109. The American stays with him. Not perfectly, but close enough. This is the truth Keller cannot escape now. The Mustang is not superior in everything. But it is good at everything. Fast enough. High enough. Long-legged enough. Relentless. He breaks off again, breath ragged, realizing with cold clarity that the bombers are going to reach their target today with strength intact. And worse, this will not be a one-time surprise. This will happen again. And again. As the bomber stream pushes deeper into Germany, flak intensifies, targets drawing near. The Mustangs hold their positions, rotating, refueling internally, pilots conserving just enough to stay lethal. Mayes checks his watch. They are farther in than any escort mission before this year. Berlin is no longer a theoretical destination. It is reachable. And somewhere in the back of every German pilot's mind, a terrifying realization is forming. The thin-framed fighter they mocked has solved the one problem that kept the Reich safe from daylight destruction. Distance. December 13, 1943, 29,000 feet over Bremen, minutes after bomb release. The sky shudders as the first bomb bays open. From Mayer's altitude, the release looks almost gentle, dark shapes peeling away from silver bellies, falling in disciplined streams. Seconds later, the earth below erupts. Columns of smoke and fire punch upward through the cloud breaks, merging into a single spreading bruise over the city. The bombers bank slowly, ponderously, turning west. This is the moment German pilots live for. Historically, the return leg is where bombers die, formations disrupted, fuel burned down, gunners exhausted. Escorts are usually gone by now, their range spent, their pilots turning for home while the Luftwaffe strikes the wounded. But the Mustangs stay. Mayes adjusts his mixture, keeps his throttle just shy of maximum cruise. He knows the numbers by heart now. He has to. Every escort pilot does. Fuel management is no longer a background concern. It is the difference between domination and a long glide into the North Sea. Below him, the bomber stream stretches out, less rigid now, but intact. The thin-framed fighters remain wrapped around it like a living shield. Oberleutnant Keller watches the turn with something close to disbelief. His squadron has taken losses. Not catastrophic, but unacceptable. Pilots have returned shaken, reporting the same thing over and over. They do not leave. The Reich's air defense doctrine was built on an assumption. Escorts cannot follow the bombers everywhere. They never have. Until now. Keller knows what this means. He doesn't need a staff officer to explain it. Every kilometer westward the bombers fly with Escort is another factory hit that won't be repaired in time. Another crew that lives to fly again. Another blow that accumulates. He keys the radio, voice low, controlled. Last attack. Head-on passes only. Do not turn with them. It is a desperate adjustment. Head-on attacks minimize exposure time. They rely on nerve, on closing speed, on luck. They are also costly. Mayes sees them coming. The Mustangs slide forward instinctively, taking the forward arc. This is where their pilots feel most alive, high closure rates, split-second decisions. The enemy grows fast in the windscreen, crosses the sight, vanishes. He fires once. Twice. Then pulls up and through, never lingering, never bleeding speed. The German fighters punch through the formation, a handful managing to fire before breaking away. AB-17 peels slightly, smoke trailing from an engine, but it holds position. No one goes down in flames. That matters. Inside Keller's cockpit, the oxygen mask feels tighter now. His fuel needle dips toward uncomfortable territory. He watches the Americans reform almost immediately after the pass, their discipline intact. He understands it fully now. The Mustang is not just an aircraft. It is a system. Range, speed, visibility, tactics, each piece compensating for the others. The thin wings are not a weakness, they are the reason the fighter can be everywhere at once. The drop tanks, once mocked, have erased the sanctuary of distance. Keller turns away. Not in panic. In calculation. The war in the air has shifted, and he knows it. The North Sea comes into view an hour later, grey and endless beneath broken cloud. Only now, do the Mustangs begin to peel away in small elements, fuel margins thinning but intact. Mayers watches the bombers continue west, escorts handing off to shorter-range fighters closer to England. He finally exhales, jaw aching from hours of tension. He checks his gauges. Enough fuel. Enough to land. Enough to do it again tomorrow. Back at the airfield, ground crews stare as the Mustangs roll in, frost-streaked, gun barrels blackened. Mechanics count bullet holes, fuel stains, chipped paint. They also count something else. Bombers returning. More than expected. In intelligence rooms across Germany, reports stack up, targets hit, losses higher than predicted, intercept success lower than ever. And threading through every document is the same unwelcome phrase. Begleitschutz bis zum Ziel. Escort all the way to the target. The thin-framed fighter has done what no one thought possible. It has stayed. March 6, 1944, 26,000 feet over central Germany, eastbound toward Berlin. The date matters. Everyone in the cockpit knows it. This isn't Bremen. This isn't the Ruhr. This is the capital. Lieutenant Jack Mayer settles the Mustang into formation as the bomber stream stretches ahead in a vast, unbroken line. The air feels heavier here, charged with expectation. Berlin has been attacked before, at night, in harassment raids, in limited daylight strikes, but never like this. Never with escorts that intend to stay the entire way. The winter has broken. The sky is clearer, colder at altitude, visibility stretching for miles. It's perfect flying weather. And perfect killing weather. Mayers checks his drop tanks. Full. He has learned to trust them now, the ungainly shapes that turn impossibility into routine. The Merlin engine hums, steady as a heartbeat. Ahead, the first flak bursts appear far sooner than usual, Berlin's defenses reaching out, warning shots in black. Oberleutnant Keller, older now, harder around the eyes, climbs through scattered cloud in his Bf 109. The radio traffic is relentless. Intercepts forming. Sectors overlapping. Commands snapping. Berlin is not just a target. It is a symbol. And today, it is vulnerable. Keller sees the bomber stream and feels something he hasn't felt in months, inevitability. The escorts are already there. Not at the edge. Not drifting. They are embedded. Mustangs fly above the bombers, below them, and miles ahead, free-ranging, aggressive, denying altitude before German fighters can even assemble properly. This is not interception. This is suppression. The first engagements are chaotic. German fighters rush in piecemeal, forced to attack through layers of American fighters before ever seeing a bomber. The Mustangs pounce, diving out of the sun, firing, climbing away, refusing to be drawn into prolonged turns. Mayers downs 190 in a flash of fire and smoke, then immediately disengages. There is no time to celebrate. No time to chase. He has learned the real lesson of this aircraft. Presence is power. Every second a Mustang occupies a slice of sky is a second denied to the enemy. Inside the bomber stream, crews feel it too. The sky is violent, flak dense, fighters everywhere, but it is not hopeless. The sense of isolation that once defined deep missions is gone. A navigator watches the coastline vanish far behind them. "We're really doing this," he whispers. Berlin looms. Keller makes one final attack, threading through defensive fire, aiming for a lead bomber. A Mustang appears instantly, crossing his path, forcing him to brake. He snaps into a dive, adrenaline roaring in his ears. When he levels out, the bombers are still there. Unbroken. And above them, the thin-framed fighters circle like sharks. He understands now what the WWII has lost. Control. The bombs fall. Berlin burns beneath a clear sky. From altitude, it looks almost quiet, smoke spreading, fires blooming, history shifting beneath contrails. The Mustangs remain, escorting the bombers through the turn, through the retreat, through the most dangerous phase of all. They follow them all the way out. By the time the formation turns for home, the Luftwaffe is exhausted. Fuel is low. Pilots are shaken. Losses are heavy, not catastrophic in one day, but cumulative, relentless. That is the true damage. Mayers points his nose west, muscles aching, mind clear. He knows this mission will be studied, copied, repeated. Berlin is no longer safe by daylight. The thin-framed fighter the Germans mocked has reached the heart of the WWII, and stayed long enough to prove it belongs there. March 6, 1944, late afternoon, 24,000 feet over western Germany. The bombers are turning for home. Smoke still stains the eastern horizon, a dark smear where Berlin sits beneath a spreading pall. The flak thins gradually, then abruptly, as if the ground itself has given up the argument. What remains is distance, and the long, dangerous road back across enemy airspace. This used to be the killing zone. It isn't anymore. Meyers eases back on the throttle, conserving fuel now, his eyes constantly moving. Below him, Mustangs rotate in loose elements, some climbing to replace others dropping back, a seamless ballet refined over months of brutal learning. No gaps. No relief. The Luftwaffe tries one last time. Oberleutnant Keller listens as commands come in, fragmented, urgent, contradictory. There are fewer voices on the radio now. Too many familiar call signs never check back in. He joins a final, desperate intercept, climbing through turbulence left by the bomber stream. The Americans are waiting. They always are now. A Mustang crosses his nose, close enough that Keller sees the pilot's face through the canopy, calm, focused, already looking past him. Keller breaks away without firing. There is nothing left to prove. The channel appears hours later, gray water reflecting late sunlight. Only now do the Mustangs finally peel off in earnest, fuel gauges pressing into the red, pilots calculating glide paths and alternates. Meyers releases a breath he didn't realize he was holding. His shoulders slump. The mission is over. But the war has changed. In the weeks that follow, the effect compounds. German pilot training hours are slashed. Veteran pilots are forced to fly more often, with less rest, against an enemy that chooses when and where to fight. Fuel shortages worsen. Aircraft production cannot replace experience. The Mustangs keep coming. They escort. They sweep. They hunt airfields. They force German fighters to rise, and die, on American terms. The Luftwaffe is not destroyed in one battle. It is exhausted. Keller survives the spring. Barely. By summer, he is flying less, grounded more often, tasked with instructing boys who should still be in school. He tells them the truth when no one else is listening. Do not underestimate the enemy's aircraft, he says quietly. It is not thin. It is everywhere. On an English airfield, mechanics bolt fresh drop tanks onto another line of Mustangs. Paint is scuffed. Metal is patched. The design remains the same. Long wings. Narrow body. Unmatched reach. Meyers walks away from his aircraft, helmet under his arm, already thinking about tomorrow's briefing. Another escort. Another deep mission. Another day the bombers will not fly alone. The German pilots had mocked the Mustang's thin frame because they measured strength in armor and bulk. They were wrong. Strength was distance. Strength was endurance. Strength was the ability to stay. And once the P-51 could escort bombers all the way to Berlin, and back, the air war over Europe was decided.